It was the 24th of June, 2002, Monday Night Raw, and the man who built the most powerful entertainment empire in the world stepped into that ring with something to say. What followed those two words would become the greatest chapter in WWE history. Not just a slogan, a mandate. A challenge thrown at an entire generation of wrestlers who had been living in the shadow of the Attitude Era. The Monday Night Wars were over. WWE had swallowed WCW whole. Stone Cold Steve Austin was walking out of buildings without warning. The Rock had Hollywood on the line. Hulk Hogan was a nostalgia act. The ratings were dropping. WWE needed a revolution. And on that June night in 2002, it got one. Kurt Angle stood in that ring and called out anyone he'd never faced before. And out came a kid from West Newbury, Massachusetts, with fire in his eyes. What came next was nothing short of a dynasty. He locked in an Iron Man match with Kurt Angle that wrestling historians still debate as one of the greatest matches ever put to tape. He was the apex predator of SmackDown, and everybody knew it. Paul Heyman stood at his side, whispering in his ear, telling him he was God's chosen monster. And for a year and a half, nobody proved Heyman wrong. But at WrestleMania XIX in Seattle, something extraordinary happened. Lesnar and Kurt Angle told a story that transcended sports entertainment. And in what should have been a crowning victory for the Beast, Lesnar attempted a shooting star press from the top rope, a move that massive men have no business doing, and he nearly broke his own neck on the way down. He finished the match on pure adrenaline and will, winning the title one more time. That was Ruthless Aggression in its purest form. A man so determined to give the audience everything he had that he risked it all on the biggest night of the year. A man who arrived like a freight train and redefined what it meant to be a monster in professional wrestling, Brock Lesnar. The next big thing. In August 2002, just 5 months after his WWE debut, this former NCAA Division I champion stood across the ring from The Rock at SummerSlam. The Rock, the most electrifying man in sports entertainment. And Brock Lesnar, he destroyed him. At 25 years old, Brock Lesnar became the youngest WWE champion in history. Let that sink in. One of the boldest decisions in WWE history happened quietly, almost bureaucratically. In April 2002, Vince McMahon divided his entire roster in half. Raw got one group. SmackDown got another. 2 separate rosters, 2 separate champions, 2 separate universes. On paper, it sounds like a business decision. In reality, it was rocket fuel. Suddenly, mid-card talent who'd been treading water had room to breathe. Edge could become a main eventer. Eddie Guerrero could become a champion. John Cena could develop a character. Rey Mysterio could become a revelation. The brand extension didn't just create competition between shows, it created stars. SmackDown became what wrestling insiders called the better show. And the reason? Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, Edge, and Chavo Guerrero. Night after night. These men delivered. Matches so technically brilliant, so emotionally invested, so flat-out incredible that fans were recording SmackDown just to watch the matches twice. And then came the night that made grown men cry, the 15th of February, 2004, No Way Out. Eddie Guerrero, a man who had battled drug addiction so severe it nearly killed him, who had been fired from WWE, who had worked his way back up from the absolute bottom, stepped into the ring with Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship. The crowd didn't just cheer for Eddie that night. They wept for him. Because everyone watching knew the story. Everyone knew what this moment meant. And when Eddie Guerrero pinned Brock Lesnar's shoulders to the mat after a match that was a masterclass of psychology and storytelling, the SmackDown arena exploded. Latino heat had climbed the mountain. America lost its mind. Over on Raw, a different kind of power was being built. Not out of hope, not out of underdogs, out of pure, cold-blooded dominance. Triple H, Ric Flair, Randy Orton, Batista, Evolution. Triple H had been one of the Attitude Era's biggest stars, but now, in this new era, he became something else entirely, the architect of a faction designed to control Raw from the top down. He called it Evolution because, he said, only the strong survive. Ric Flair was the legend who gave them credibility. The 16-time world champion, the stylin' and profilin' nature boy, lending his prestige to the next generation. Randy Orton was the hungry young killer, just 24 years old. Third-generation wrestler. The kind of natural talent that only comes along once every 20 years. Evolution called him their legend killer, and he lived up to every syllable of that name. Mick Foley, Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels. He went through them all with a cold, calculating smile. And Batista, the silent enforcer, the man who barely spoke but didn't need to, because his actions said everything. 6'6", 300 pounds, arms like telephone poles. When Triple H needed something done, Dave Batista got it done. For over a year, Evolution ran Raw, and then cracks. Randy Orton won the World Heavyweight Championship at SummerSlam 2004. He was 24 years old, the youngest world champion in WWE history. Instead of celebrating, Triple H had him fired from Evolution the next night. The mentor had become threatened by the student. That betrayal set off a chain reaction. The group fractured, and Batista, watching all of it, began forming his own ideas. The 2005 Royal Rumble. Batista entered, eliminated man after man, and won the whole thing. Now he had a choice: World Heavyweight Championship on Raw against Triple H, or WWE Championship on SmackDown against JBL. Triple H pulled every string. Ric Flair worked every angle. They even staged a fake limousine accident to try to manipulate Batista into choosing SmackDown, but the animal saw through all of it. At the contract signing, Batista picked up the Raw clipboard, then the SmackDown clipboard, then he put both down. He looked Triple H dead in the eyes, and he smiled. Then he demolished both Triple H and Ric Flair, signed the Raw contract, and chose to fight his former boss at WrestleMania 21. The result was inevitable. Batista bomb, 1, 2, 3, championship. The animal had arrived, and the era had its second pillar. And then there's John Cena. No figure in the Ruthless Aggression Era is more complex, more debated, more talked about than John Felix Anthony Cena. And that debate, that genuine, passionate, sometimes furious debate, is exactly why this era was so great. Cena started as a white kid from Massachusetts doing a Dr. Thugonomics hip-hop gimmick. It should have been a joke. Instead, it connected, because Cena was authentic. Every bar he freestyled, every word he said felt like it came from a real place. Fans who'd never even been to a wrestling show were buying Cena merchandise. His chain was everywhere. He won the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 21. He then proceeded to carry WWE on his back for the next several years, defending the title, headlining pay-per-view after pay-per-view, main eventing WrestleMania, and generating money for WWE at a rate that hadn't been seen since Steve Austin in 1998. But here's what made Cena truly special in this era: the backlash. By 2006, 2007, half the arenas were booing him out of the building. Smart wrestling fans felt he was overexposed, overpushed, never losing clean. And Cena? He never flinched. He came to those arenas, he heard every boo, and he delivered anyway. Night after night after night. His match against Shawn Michaels on a Monday Night Raw in April 2007, 47 minutes, no gimmicks. Just two men telling the perfect story, is considered by many to be one of the greatest matches in Raw history. Period. Love him or hate him, John Cena was the Ruthless Aggression Era. But the Ruthless Aggression Era was never just one man. It was an ensemble cast of extraordinary talent. Edge, the rated R superstar, transformed from tag team specialist into one of WWE's greatest heels. His Money in the Bank cash-in on a beaten John Cena in January 2006 was opportunistic, cowardly, and perfect heel work. He became WWE champion 11 times. 11! HBK in the Ruthless Aggression Era was simply on another level. And The Undertaker, the Deadman, the American Badass, the Phenom anchored both SmackDown and Raw across this entire period. His WrestleMania streak began drawing serious attention. His matches with Lesnar, Batista, Edge, Batista, again at Mania 23, all classics. The Undertaker didn't just belong to the Ruthless Aggression Era. He was the soul of it. But no documentary about this era is complete without confronting its darkest chapter. The storytelling was edgier and more sophisticated than the era that came before it. The in-ring quality, especially on SmackDown, was arguably the best in WWE's history up to that point. And perhaps most importantly, those wrestlers built the foundation that the next 20 years of WWE would stand on. Every star you watch today, in one way or another, traces their inspiration back to someone who worked during the Ruthless Aggression Era. On the 24th of June 2002, Vince McMahon stood in that ring and threw down a challenge. He demanded to know which of his performers had the fire, the hunger, the absolute refusal to accept mediocrity. Which of them had ruthless aggression? The answer wasn't one man, it wasn't two, it was an entire generation. A generation that clawed, fought, bled, sacrificed, and built something that will never be replicated. Something that still stands 20+ years later as the high water mark of what professional wrestling can be when the right people are in the right place at the right time. This is the story of the WWE Ruthless Aggression Era. And the story, it never really ended. Thanks for watching Wrestle 360. I will see you in next one.